This is how I copied the piano sound from Idea 12 in 10 minutes. Okay, so this is the original piano track of Idea 12, which is published on YouTube. And this is my copy of it, or my recreation of the piano sound. And I'm going to walk you through all of my settings on how I managed to get this close to the original sound. Again, this is the original sound. And on the bottom, this is my copy of it. So it sounds pretty similar with headphones. You can hear it's not identical, not 100%, but very, very close. And I'm going to show you exactly which settings I've used. I've used only free plugins, and I'm using Logic Pro. Okay, let's get into it. All right, so I'm starting out with a basic MIDI track. And I've added these MIDI notes myself manually by, first of all, setting the project to 100 BPM, 4/4 time signature, and in B major key signature. And then I've put these notes down manually by having the audio track side by side and matching up the tempo with 100 BPM. So then it aligns perfectly with the first part of the original song. And then looking at the sheet music for it, it was easy to lay down these notes. And this track list sounds like this. All right, so it's pretty close to the original, or should be basically exactly like the original if the sheet music is accurate. And then I have some plugins here. And let me turn all of these off first. And then we can look at this first plugin, which is the Labs Spitfire plugin, or Labs plugin from Spitfire Audio. And you can download it for free at spitfireaudio.com, I believe. I'll put it up on the screen. And then you'll download the free soft piano plugin. So you'll find it under Get More Packs. Go to All Packs, search for soft piano. And it will be one of the free ones. So this one. So just download that one. And once you've done that, you'll find it in your left side here. And you just click it. And then you'll have to adjust these settings a little bit. So for me, I've put this at 0.74, 25%, and then 60% for this one, which is the reverb setting. I've done another video of Idea 10 and Idea 15 where I have the reverb setting somewhere between 50 and 55. But for Idea 12, I felt it was much more reverb, so I bumped it up to 60 here, and we'll add even more reverb later, as you'll see. So let's listen to just after we've added this Labs plugin. That's basically half the work done right there. So then it sounds like this. All right, it's not exactly like the original now, but it's gonna get there soon, I promise. You'll hear that it's a bit muffled, or like we need to do some EQing to get this to sound good. All right, so that's the first part I've done here. I've added a match EQ in Logic. What that does is I've referenced it to the original audio, so I played that so it could learn how the EQ should be, and compared it to how this track currently sounds without the EQ. And then it will produce this EQ curve that will sort of try to compensate and make it more similar to the original track. And then we can listen to it with this enabled. And if I turn it off, so you can hear the difference, right? Quite dramatic difference. Much more clarity in a high end due to this, and then taking away some of these mid frequencies. But it's quite low still, so we're gonna have to bump the volume. That's why I have this gain plugin, bumping it by 24 decibels. That's quite a lot. All right, but we'll just have to do that, and then we'll get it up to production volume. All right, that's a lot louder, right? That is a lot louder and much better to work with. So now I would say we're 80% there. 80% there. Next, I've added a directional mixer. What that does is I'm using it to narrow down the stereo image of the song. So this Labs plugin has a quite wide stereo image by default. We want to narrow it a bit down. So using this plugin, activating the split feature, which makes us able to have one stereo setting for the low frequencies and one for the high frequencies. So I've selected a crossover at 890 Hertz. And then on the high frequencies above 890, I've set it to 0 stereo. And then below that to 0.64. A value of 1 would mean just leave it alone. But reducing it to 0.64 makes it a bit more compressed in the stereo field to the center. So let's listen again with and without this one. You might not hear the difference if you're just using laptop speakers, but if you have like a good quality headset or even AirPods, maybe you could hear the difference. So I'm gonna play, and then now it's on, and then I'm gonna turn it off. And now it's much wider on the ears without it on. So turning it on, now it's much more focused to the center. All right, and I've done this with all of the, this is the third Gibran Alcocer song I'm recreating the sound of, and on all of them, I'm using this trick to make it more center. And yeah, it just sounds more similar, I feel. But we're gonna add a bit more stereo afterwards with a reverb, so it's not gonna be exactly as center as this. Next, I'm adding a compressor just to sort of smooth out the peaks a little bit. You can see at the graph here where it's being applied. Again, it's just a feeling, a hunch that it should be done based on the result I got. Yeah. All right, and now that's all for this track. And I would say now we're a little bit more than 90% there. But I've done some more tricks. I've added a reverb track here. Let me unhide that one. That track is responsible for adding more reverb, because as I said in the introduction, this track, as opposed to Idea 10 and Idea 15, has much more reverb. It's almost like it's a synth pad in the background or something. So that's why I added this track, where I've used also the free plugin Valhalla Supermassive to add the reverb. So you could, this is downloadable and probably compatible with all of the DAWs out there that you use, whether you're using Logic or FL Studio or BandLab or such. You should be able to use this one. And I went through all of the presets here. It has a bunch of presets, but I went with the Z, Massive, and then Dark Matter. That sounded pretty close to me. Then I tweaked the settings a little bit. So you can see I've tweaked the delay. Oh wait, this is actually wrong. Let me do this. Here, these are the correct settings. I've upped the mix to 100% because I have this on a separate track, so I can mix it the way I want it. Yeah, tweak the delay, warp, feedback, and things like that. So you could just duplicate these settings. Make sure you have the mode to Sagittarius, and then do this, or find the dark matter preset, and then adjust the settings to what you see on the screen. And we could try to listen to the reverb only. If I just turn this one off, and then I'm gonna turn this one off as well. So now we should hear just the reverb. Yeah, you're gonna hear how lush that is. It's just, yeah, super big. Then I've added a compressor here as well, with the intention of sort of dampening the attacks a little bit and then increasing the volume as it fades out a bit. Just, yeah, subtle things. And then I've added a channel EQ to, yeah, basically adjust some of these frequencies. And you won't hear the difference here, I think, unless you have a very good ear. But it's something I found just when comparing side by side with the original, that I sort of felt I needed these small tweaks. And now we can listen to it with listen to these two tracks together. so both the reverb and the main sound. All right, and that's actually everything I have done. You can see how I mixed the reverb here by not having full volume, but down at like negative 11 dB, just so it doesn't take all of the focus. And then I've bounced that out and I ended up with this waveform. So let me turn off all of the other ones. And we can now listen to, again, the original, and let's see, solo that one. The original versus my bounced version. Can you hear the difference? There are subtle differences, but it's very, very close, and I like it a lot. So I'm gonna try to use these settings myself and have some fun making some music, just play around. It's a really nice sound to have. So, all right, that's it. There's also downloadable content. This will be available as a template for Logic Pro, and there's also other templates you'll find. Links are in the description.